I used to live a peaceful life in our small house on the edge of the village, a house full of memories and laughter from childhood days. I am Layla, a woman in my mid-30s, with fair skin and eyes that carry a calm look, despite the exhaustion I hide. My husband, Ahmed, is a kind-hearted man who worked in a small business, but he had to travel to the big city 2 months ago due to a large business deal. He left me with our young children, and every night I feel the loneliness hit me like a cold wave. The house that used to be full of his presence has become quieter than usual, and I struggle to keep the routine normal in front of the kids. One morning, while I was cleaning the backyard, I felt a strange tiredness in my body. The sun was hot, and the trees no longer provided the shade they once did. I thought of asking for help, and called my younger sister, Salma, who lives in the neighboring village. I said in a Salma, "Can you send your son Youssef to help me with some work? The loneliness is getting heavy, and I need an extra pair of hands." Youssef, my sister's son, is a 17-year-old young man, tall and strong, with eyes that carry a sharp look that makes you feel like he's older than his years. Salma agreed right away and said he would come the next day. The following day, Youssef knocked on the door early. I opened it with a smile, but from the first moment, I felt a strange change in the atmosphere. He entered the house with confident steps, and his gaze lingered on me, which made me feel uneasy. I tried to ignore it, so I said, "Thank you, Youssef, but help me with the garden and clean the balcony." He didn't respond with the usual words. Instead, he gave me a mysterious smile and went to work. Throughout the day, I noticed that he would enter the kitchen without asking, and sometimes stand silently behind me. When I turned around, I felt his gaze burning through me. But I told myself, he's my sister's son, I must be imagining things. That evening, while I was preparing tea, I heard him approach. He bent down to pick up a cup that had fallen from the table, and his body was very close to mine. My heartbeat began to race as I tried to focus on the tea. He whispered softly, "Aunt, you're tired. You should rest." Simple words, but something stirred inside me. I tried to move away, but his eyes never left me. That night, I couldn't sleep well. I kept asking myself why I felt this way. He is my sister's son, but my mind seemed to be losing control, and my body felt an unusual heat. I decided I would keep my distance the next day, but would I be able to? The answer was suspended in the air, as I felt something dangerous was about to happen. The next morning, I woke up feeling disoriented. My eyes were heavy from lack of sleep, and the sound of the kids playing outside broke the silence of the house. I decided to ignore what I had felt the day before, and told myself, "Layla, focus on your children and let go of these strange thoughts." But when I went down to the kitchen, I found Youssef sitting on a chair, looking out the window. He was wearing a tight shirt that highlighted his muscles, and his wet hair from a shower added to his attractiveness, something I didn't want to admit. I tried to avoid looking at him, so I said firmly, "Youssef, pick up the things in the garden today, and don't enter the kitchen unless I invite you." He looked at me with a faint smile and said, "Sure, Aunt, but are you sure you don't need help here?" His words seemed innocent, but his tone carried something else. I felt a strange sensation in my stomach and quickly said, "No, go ahead," and hurried out of the room. Throughout the day, I tried to keep busy, cleaning the house, cooking for the kids, and even tidying up Ahmed's old closet to occupy my mind. But every time I passed by the balcony, I would see him working calmly, yet when he lifted things it seemed intentional, as if he wanted me to notice his body. At one point, he found an old chair hidden under the trees and bent down to pick it up. Our eyes met for a moment, and I felt as though time had stopped. My body began to tremble, and I quickly closed the window, telling myself, "He's my sister's son. God, guide me." But another voice inside me whispered, "Why do you feel like this?" That evening, while I was preparing dinner, he entered the kitchen without asking. "Aunt, I want some water." He approached the fridge, and his body was so close to mine. I could smell his cologne, and my heart rate increased. I tried to focus on the onions I was chopping, but when his hand accidentally brushed mine as he took the water bottle, I quickly withdrew and said, "Youssef, go outside. I'm almost done." He smiled and left, but I heard a light laugh, as if he was enjoying what was happening. I sat on the chair, placing my hand on my chest to calm my racing heart. I began to wonder, am I the one at fault, or is he doing this on purpose? That night, after the kids had fallen asleep, I sat in the room trying to read a book, but my mind was distracted. I heard light footsteps in the hallway and thought it might be the kids waking up, but when I quietly opened the door, I found Yusuf standing there, wearing a light shirt that revealed his chest. He looked at me with a gaze I had never seen before, a gaze of a man, not a young boy. He said calmly, "Aunt, I heard you, I was sure you were awake." I didn't answer. I felt the heat rising in my face. I tried to close the door, but he placed his hand on the frame and said, "If you don't like me being here, I'll leave right now." I paused, thinking, why do I feel like I don't want to tell him to leave? I finally closed the door, but my heart didn't settle. I heard his footsteps fade, but I felt that something inside me was changing, something I couldn't control. Would I continue to ignore it, or would I fall into a spiral with no end? I woke up the next morning with an unusual heaviness in my chest. Sleep hadn't come easily after that night, and the sound of Yusuf's footsteps still echoed in my head. I looked at myself in the mirror and found my eyes swollen, as if they were hiding a secret I didn't want to admit. I tried to start my day as usual, preparing breakfast for the kids. When I looked out the window, I saw Yusuf working in the garden, carrying dry branches with strength, and his muscles were prominent under the sun. I quickly lowered my gaze and told myself, "Layla, these are dangerous thoughts. Focus on your life." But no matter how hard I tried to turn away, something inside me kept pulling me towards him. He followed me inside, and the place was narrow, so I could feel his strong scent fill the air. As we tried to move the box, his hand brushed against mine. I looked up at him and found him smiling slowly. He said, "Aunt, you're as light as a feather, I have to be careful." His words started off innocent, but his eyes were saying something else. I quickly stepped back and said, "Okay, I'll leave you to finish on your own." But when I left the storage room, I couldn't calm my heartbeat. It felt as though it was warning me of something to come. That evening, the kids sat in front of the TV while I was in the kitchen preparing dinner. I heard the back door open, and Yusuf entered without asking. "I brought you some firewood from the garden. The evening's getting chilly." He came closer and placed the firewood on the table, but his hand brushed my hair. I stopped cooking and glared at him. "Yusuf, that's crossing a line. Go outside." But he didn't move. He said, "I don't want to upset you, but I feel so much for you." His words were like a lightning strike, and I screamed, "Leave now." He left, but his eyes left a deep mark. That night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned in bed, my mind replaying scene after scene. I remembered my husband Ahmed's eyes, and how he used to look at me with love. But his absence made me feel an emptiness. Was this emptiness pushing me toward Yusuf? Suddenly I heard at the door. My heart skipped a beat and I got up slowly. I opened the door with fear, and there he was, standing there wearing a slightly open shirt. "Aunt, I'm sorry for upsetting you, but I can't keep what's inside me anymore." I looked at him, and tears started to build up. I said, "Yusuf, this is wrong. I'm married, and you're my niece's son." He replied, "I know, but my heart won't listen." I tried to close the door, but he placed his hand on the frame and said, "If you don't want me here, I'll leave now. But if you stay silent, I'll stay." I paused, feeling a terrible inner struggle. I finally closed the door, but my tears flowed. I sat on the floor. God, guide me. What's wrong with me? The next day, I tried to avoid him completely. I didn't let him inside and told him I no longer needed his help, but he stood at the door and said, "If you don't want to talk to me, I'll leave. But know that I won't leave you if anything happens to you." He left, but his words left me confused. That evening, while I was washing the dishes, I heard light footsteps behind me. I turned around, and there he was, standing silently. He didn't say anything, but his eyes locked on mine. He came closer and whispered, "You know I can't forget you." I backed away in fear, saying, "Go, please." But he didn't move. My heart was screaming, and I didn't know if I wanted him to leave or stay. Would I resist this temptation, or would I fall into a trap I didn't know how to escape from? That night was the hardest by far. I sat in my room, the light off, and darkness surrounded me as if reflecting what was inside me. My tears hadn't stopped since Yusuf left the kitchen, but his voice still echoed in my head. "You know I can't forget you." I tried to pray for guidance, but my heart was distracted. I remembered Ahmed's promise before he left, how he said he would return soon. But days turned into weeks, and loneliness began to consume me. Was I guilty for feeling this way? Or was it human weakness taking over me? Suddenly I heard a faint sound from outside. I stood up in fear. I opened the window quietly and saw Youssef sitting on the steps in front of the house, looking up at the sky. I felt something inside me urging me to go outside, but I resisted. He turned toward me and called, "Aunt, if you don't want to talk to me, just tell me now and I'll leave." I stopped and felt my tears falling again. I opened the door and said in a trembling voice, "Youssef, this is wrong. You need to go." He came closer, and his eyes were filled with pain. "I know this is wrong, but I can't control my heart. If you tell me to leave, I will. But if you stay silent, I'll stay." I looked at him, feeling a terrible internal battle. I wanted to scream and push him away, but my body didn't move. Suddenly, his hand reached out and gently touched mine. The touch shocked me, and I quickly withdrew, but his eyes never left mine. He said, "You're not like anyone else, and I don't want to hurt you. But if you feel something, tell me now." My tears streamed down, and I screamed, "Go, please go!" He left slowly, but when I looked back at him, I saw him wiping away his tears. I closed the door, crying bitterly. I sat on the floor and whispered, "God, forgive me. I am weak." The next morning I found a letter under the door. I opened it in fear, and it was written in his handwriting, "I won't torment you again. I promised I would leave, but know that I will always love you. Forgive me." I collapsed into tears, but my heart no longer knew peace. Days passed and I didn't see him, but his memory followed me like a shadow. When Ahmed finally returned, I tried to act as I had before, but my eyes carried an unhealable wound. Was I guilty, or was fate stronger than me? I don't know, but something inside me died, and I don't know how to bring it back. After Ahmed's return, I tried to live as I had before. He would smile and talk about his travels, but my eyes were always searching for something missing. The house came back to life, but my heart stayed cold. I would look at Ahmed and remember Youssef, those moments that tore me between duty and weakness. I never told anyone, not even my sister Salma. I was afraid to face him again. But fate didn't spare me. One day Salma came to visit, bringing Youssef with her. He looked at me from a distance, his eyes filled with silent pain. I smiled at him weakly and told myself, everyone has to forget. But I couldn't. That night, while Ahmed was sleeping, I cried quietly and whispered, "God, forgive me and give me strength." With time, I learned to hide the wound. I spent my days with my children, and Ahmed returned to be my support. But deep inside, the echo of Youssef remained, like a shadow that won't go away. Was this a test or a lesson? I don't know. Here I am telling my story today to warn you. Beware of loneliness. It can lead you to places from which you may never return. Have you ever been in a similar situation? Share your story in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Share the video so we can discuss it together.